Hey there, Jordan Sheridan, live Status Coup. It is Wednesday, February 23rd. The year is 2022, and I'm delighted to be joined by the man, myth, real progressive himself, Steve Grumbine of Real Progressives. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good, man. Good, man. Good.
Good,
Hot shit
good.
going on in there.
Oh boy. Honestly, dude, I don't even have time to go to the bathroom. Full disclosure, I just showered. I just showered like 20 minutes ago, and it
Oh my
is
God.
5 o'clock Eastern time. So very, very excited for this stream. It's going to be slightly shorter because at 5:45, and I'm going to promote this throughout the show, so you'll be hearing this a lot. At 5:45 Eastern time, so in about 45 minutes, we're going to be live on Call-In podcasting app with our new weekly show. Brianna Joy Gray is set to join me. Full disclosure, because I like to keep it real, I have not heard back from her, so I hope she's still coming on. I think she's coming on. She said she was, but I haven't heard back just to confirm. So if she joins, great. If not, it'll be me and a bunch of people. But Colin, could you jump on right now, real quick? Or if you have the animation to tell people how to download Call-In and join us?
I don't have an animation, but we have a little graphic here. To download it, all you have to do is just open whether it's the App Store on the iPhone or Android, and just search Callin. You can see how it's spelled in the top right there, Callin, and its little symbol there in case you get confused with something else. And then you just search for us. You can see at Status Coup there, and you can see George Sheridan's name. And you just hit follow and to get notified when new stuff comes out. And then we have our weekly show here you can also subscribe to.
Yes. It is for iPhone, Android. Colin, is there a desktop version? Can you do it through desktop, or it has to be on your phone?
I believe it's only on your phone.
Yes. And full disclosure, I'm 60% sure I know how to use it. So this is going to be a lot of fun in 45 minutes. And Steve, I definitely want to have you on as a guest at some point if this isn't too much of a train wreck later. All right. So smash that like button, share the stream, like button, share the stream. Steve, there's a lot of topics to discuss. And I should start with Russia and Ukraine first, but I'm not going to.
Oh,
I should start with Russia and Ukraine first, which is obviously a big fucking story. But there's a different story that I think has ramifications for what you and I are very passionate about, and that's the potential of one day maybe sort of having some type of general strike. And I have not spoken much. Actually, I don't think I've done any videos on the Canadian convoy, not because I don't care or I was dodging it, but full disclosure to the audience, I have on again, off again depression. And last week was very much on again. This week, fortunately, I'm feeling much better depression wise. Constipation wise, I'm back to being constipated. TMI. It's a seesaw, Steve. You and I talked about it on the phone because I need medication for my mental health. Unfortunately, I'm not ashamed of it. I have depression. I need medication. But the medication, I have lost the life lottery where I take this medication and within 2 days I can't poop. So it's a big problem. I tried getting off the medication for a while. I was going to the bathroom more normally, but my anxiety and depression came roaring back. So now I'm back on the medication. Yes, you could email. I love the people who send constipation tips to info@statuscoup.com. Info@statuscoup.com for antidepressant induced constipation, because that's what it is. Every time I get off the antidepressants, I poop.
Can we make the joke real quick? I mean, Jordan, when we were talking about this, we were trying to come up with like being silly. It was completely spontaneous. There was no intent, but it just was so funny. Like shitter talk with Jordan and Steve, and it was like, capitalism and crap or something. What did you say? It was capitalism and constipation with Jordan.
Capitalism and constipation. We actually have in the Status Coup Discord, which is for members. By the way, you could be a Status Coup member and get into our member Discord. We have a Status Poo channel. I'm probably losing half the audience right now, but I'm just being honest. I literally could not work for a couple days yesterday. For those of you that have depression, when it's really bad, I just couldn't concentrate and I was down. Thank you to my wife and my parents and my family for calling me and, sending me love. Fortunately, the medication is kicking in right now. So anyway, we could talk about that another time, maybe on call-in. We'll see. But Steve, I want to start with the Canadian trucker convoy because I have a nuanced opinion here. And right-wingers, I might please you, but I might upset you at the same time. So, Colin, let's start with the clip because now there is not potentially, there's going to be a bit of a U.S. convoy starting. I don't know if it's going to be as big as Canada, but it's supposedly coming to Washington, D.C. soon. So White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about it.
Is the president concerned at all about the convoy of truckers that's making its way to Washington, and is he taking any sort of steps to protect them?
Yes, we've actually been monitoring this closely. The Department of Homeland Security and the administration are tracking reports of a potential convoy that may be planning to travel to several U.S. cities, including Washington, D.C. We have been working, including from Dr. Liz Sherwood-Randall here, as well as our Homeland Security Department, closely with our federal, state, and local partners to continuously assess the threat environment and keep our communities safe. And our efforts include enhanced intelligence sharing, a critical incident response plan for the U.S. Capitol, a regional security assessment, and a simulation experiment that developed data-driven recommendations to bolster regional security. So we are closely monitoring, closely watching, and working with state and local authorities. Let me go ahead.
Okay, so that sounds mild, but in the words there are threat assessment. She's low-key talking about surveillance, this, that, or the other thing. So I want to address first the Canadian convoy. I'm pro-vaccine. If you're anti-vax, then don't watch if you don't want. I believe in the vaccines. I think they've saved globally. I don't know how many, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, maybe. And I'm pro-vaccine. Science changes. I think the CDC has been very shabby. I think Fauci has lied repeatedly. But as far as the vaccines, I mean, the data is the data. And for people that want to live in, tiny houses and claim there's a cabal and they're all lying, that's fine. Mandates, I think there's a fair debate on mandates and whether some of them are too strict. I personally believe during a public health crisis, certain regulations are needed and certain collectivist solutions where everybody does things for the greater good. But I also believe that once it's clear that, Omicron, for example, vaccinated people could spread as well. I understand why certain people say, well, then why should we have such rigid mandates? So I believe there could be a debate on mandates. The Canadian trucker convoy, to be clear, before I get to why I am worried about the freezing of bank accounts, prisons, the imposing of, threatening prison sentences for 10, 20 years, long, heavy fines. To be clear, contrary to what you hear on some other corners of YouTube, the Canadian trucker convoy was not popular in Canada. Let me repeat. It was not popular in Canada. I'm just spitting facts. You don't have to like it. In Canada, Colin, if we could put up the first poll, this is from Innovative Research Group. Support for the idea of the protest, 41%. 41% strongly oppose most recently. 16% strongly support. Okay? 41% strongly oppose, 16%, and the oppose kept going up from late January to early February. So that's 41% oppose, somewhat oppose is 12%. So you have majority oppose. Colin, the next poll, Freedom Convoy and Federal Politics. This is from the Ledger. 62% total oppose. That would be 47% strongly oppose, 15% somewhat oppose. Okay. I mean, I could read more polls. There's Maru Public Opinion, if you have that one, Colin. Canadians view the unvaccinated responsible for overwhelming the healthcare system, 48%. People who are holding Canadians back from having a normal life, 40%. So I say this, Steve, just to lay the groundwork that the majority of actual Canadians did not support these protests. That doesn't mean people don't have a right to protest. A minority has a right to protest. But I'm just saying, because you hear on certain YouTube channels that this is the working class revolt and this is the face of the working class. No, the majority in Canada did not support it.
Right.
But where I have an issue, and Colin, if we could move down a little bit, I sent you the article from Fortune. They started using the economy. They started using the economy as a reason that we need to freeze bank accounts of protesters, that we need to freeze bank accounts of protesters, that we need heavy prison sentences, heavy fines. Here's how much the Freedom Convoy has cost the U.S. and Canada. I'm just going to read down a little bit, Colin. The auto industry alone is facing losses as high as $988 million because of the blockades, given that there's an estimated 141 million worth of vehicles and auto parts flowing in and out daily. So the bridge that was blocked brings auto parts into Michigan, and obviously Detroit, Flint, the home, the birthplace of the auto industry. And it's not as many auto plants, but still a lot, particularly in Detroit. So 988 million, they're saying it cost the auto industry. And then you go down further, costs for increased daily policing in Canada's capital have hit $800,000 a day. And auto officials tell Global News that the city has spent an additional $1 million in city services as a result of the protest. On average, the city spends about $620,000 a year. So that's $1 million in just these few weeks. So I bring all this up, Steve, because on one end, like the January 6th protesters, for example, I'm not talking about them. I don't think that's protected. I think there should be criminal penalties. I don't minimize it like Glenn Greenwald and others and pretend, oh no, this was I don't think it should be covered 24/7, but I do think these people should be convicted. Whether you're right or you're wrong, I think they were wrong. There was no Trump was lying. You don't have a right to storm the Capitol, try to hang people and this, that, or the other thing. But what I fear, and now that to me, what Jen Psaki said, even though it kind of was well-spoken and nice PR talking points, well, do we really think Biden and the U.S. government won't just copycat Canada if it got as bad here? Maybe it wouldn't be bridges that are blocked, but maybe it would be serious sectors of the economy, serious financial institutions that are blocked. Maybe if actually the environmental movement got well organized and was blockading certain roads for long periods of time so that oil pipelines could not, transportation trucks and supply trucks could not move forward. If we've talked about it many times, imagine in a wonderful world, we actually get some type of organized general strike. Well, can't they just say, this is damaging the economy? These protesters, these organizers who are economically protesting are economic terrorists, and use the playbook of freezing bank accounts, going after family members, imposing 10, 20-year prison sentences. I've been talking a lot. Am I dramatizing this? Because again, I'm not really for what the Canadian protesters were protesting. I'm for the vaccine. I think you could have a debate about the mandates. Honestly, the Canadian thing, it was very clear. I mean, defenders of it could have their head in their hand and claim not. There was some astroturfing going on in terms of right-wing groups hijacking it, big right-wing donors sending money. But I don't have to agree with it to see the ripple effects that this could have. This playbook could be replicated to crush populist, progressive economic boycotts, as well as environmental and others.
Jordan, I'm going to take us back to when Trump was first elected. During Occupy inauguration and Disrupt J20, a lot of the protesters that were there were literally locked up. I mean, they were facing huge prison sentences. And now they got thrown out. It didn't go down that way. But that was the first sign that we had of really, truly clamping down. I don't know if you remember DC during the inauguration, but we were there covering it on the ground, and there was freaking tear gas everywhere. There was this flashbang grenades that literally blew like the pant leg off of one of the guys I was working with. We had tons of pepper spray. There were horses. There were people throwing bricks at people. I mean, it was like smashing windows. And you looked around. It was like the people that we were with, and we did set up the stinking.
I mean, there were some blocks. It felt like Fallujah. I was
Absolutely.
I was in DC during the inauguration. There were like,
it was scary. I'm not gonna lie. I was scared. I remember ducking and running with friends from like 11th and 12th Street and stuff like that. And then we covered Michael Moore and the rest of them over there at one of the grounds. But we came from Malcolm X Park. But the point of this was people were literally arrested for setting that up. I mean, there was people that were going to face lots and lots of time. It did get thrown out. But in that moment right there, I knew that protest in general was going to be targeted. Now, that was under the Trump administration, and everybody's talking fascism this and fascism that. And I don't disagree, but I think there's a whole lot of fascism going on in general, right? In general. But this trucker and the January 6th things, the thing that strikes me as super important to notice, as a lefty, as someone who wants a socialist revolution, even if it's not a violent one, even if it's an intellectual one, even if it's just a social revolution, a more of a movement revolution, a political revolution, like what Bernie said, whatever. It doesn't have to have guns. It doesn't have to be violent. Anything that creates change that is a mass movement can be a revolutionary force. When you use the tactics of unionization and direct action and things like that, and all of that is under attack, whether it be from the right wingers of these truckers or whether it be from a left-wing version of the world, doesn't matter. The point is I'm with you. I do not agree with the right wing. I am a pro-vaccine guy. I'm even a pro-mandate guy to a degree, in the sense of we have a public crisis. We have to take collective action. I mean, smallpox, polio, all these things, you can't go to school if you're not vaccinated. You have to have a vaccine card. You go to your school, your kid signs up. They have to have all their vaccines done. All this hand-wringing is nonsense to me, but whatever, man. Hey, whatever it takes to get you out of bed in the morning, you get excited, right? But this right here is very terrifying, because what they're doing is they're using the tactics they use on other countries like Iran and other ones that are not towing the U.S. geopolitical line. And they start doing sanctions. They start cutting off their access to their own funds, so on and so forth. That is terrifying, because anytime the people, I mean, the Constitution says that if the government is no longer representing, is no longer righteous, that the people have a responsibility to replace that government. So if, for example, we did do that, just know that there are powers there that are going to fight you. They are going to do what they can. They're not going to just go, oh, well, I guess they want to change. Okay, let's go ahead and let them change. They are going to strategize. They're going to work, and they're going to shut it down. So in that sense, I am 100% in support of the trucker. But see, this wasn't done in the U.S. This is done in Canada. So I don't know Canadian law. I don't know U.S. law very well, much less Canadian law. Okay.
I could tell you the law doesn't. I could tell you the law doesn't matter. I was at Standing Rock, and laws were broken every single day.
Exactly. And that was where I was going, is that it doesn't really matter. It's selective. It's all on who's going to be there and what their agenda is. But the result of any kind of leftist, progressive direct action for Medicare, for environmental purposes, as you stated, like Extinction Rebellion or any of these other groups that get together and take action, it's perfectly conceivable that the exact same Gestapo-like tactics, these same very, very, very non-people-friendly tactics, painting and demonizing as these horrible terrorists. I think this right here is very dangerous. As much as I don't like them, and I don't like them, let me be crystal clear. I'm not even mincing words, folks. If you think I'm like, oh, I don't like them, period. That said, I support their right to protest, and I support the right for anyone to protest. And if that's inconvenient, like a union strike is inconvenient for people, I still support it anyway. So anyway, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make that point.
To me, the most important thing here is not even I don't even care about the Canadian trucker convoy. Okay.
Right.
Again, we've made our point. We're pro-vaccine. I think mandates, it's debatable. I mean, people are going to say, "Oh, Jordan, you're being wishy-washy. You have to be for it or against it." I guess I'm wish-washy because I think some mandates are needed during a public health disaster. I think there's a lot of people who claim to be left that are fucking crazy and that are selfish too, and have forgot about collectivism. With that said, to me, and as somebody who has reported extensively freezing my ass off for 6 months on and off at Standing Rock, I got arrested covering a Black Lives Matter protest in 2017, where I was in jail for, I don't know, 17 hours. I have covered many Black Lives Matter protests. I have covered indigenous protests. Okay. I have said to you, and we have talked about it. Imagine if any of these protests, if even 20, 30% of it, they started taking economic actions with their marching. So the playbook that I see from Canada is, after a while, these people who I don't agree with what they were protesting, I agree they have a right to protest, but I don't agree with what they're protesting about. But they were actually successful in terms of really hurting the economy in two countries, Canada and the United States. Now, whether you agree with their cause or you don't, I don't. In that case, they were effective at doing that. And look how Canada immediately, everything escalated from 0 to 60 very, very quickly to we're freezing their bank accounts, where you could be prosecuted for 10 to 20 years, fines of $100,000 because they had an economic impact. Again, we don't agree with their motives. We don't agree with what they are protesting about. They have a right to. But my point is, well, if you're seeing that they could be successful doing that, well, I genuinely think the U.S. government and their allies in the media, who's to say they won't weaponize if the environmental movement builds and they have a successful protest that successfully protests several major corporate banks and hurt those banks? So that would have a huge ripple down effect. Unfortunately, there would be some collateral damage in terms of small business owners, people who can't get loans, individual people who have their money in the bank. I fear that if we would be successful for the right reasons, a general strike, let's say, for example, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, Occupy Wall Street, as they were boycotting Zuccotti Park, they created an amazing digital organizing campaign that successfully zapped billions out of the stock market and Wall Street. Who's to say the playbook that has just been used in Canada, they wouldn't start freezing those protesters' bank accounts? They wouldn't start throwing them in jail? That's what I don't think it's a slippery slope. I think it's already there because Jen Psaki, what she said in a question about the U.S. trucker convoy, which might not be as big as Canada. And again, I don't even know what the hell they're protesting because looking at their website, it says they're protesting in D.C. against the mandates, but also against big pharma and gas prices, and critical race theory is on a website. So it's like a lot of these are not just about mandates. But to me, when we get our act together, the progressive movement, and we actually start successfully hitting people where it hurts with our wallet, here is the playbook, Steve. They're going to freeze bank accounts. They're going to threaten us with 10 to 20 years in prison. And by the way, that did work in Standing Rock because I saw some people start going home. I don't blame them. It's a scary thing when you're facing jail time and fines that you can't afford. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but to me, it's very clear the U.S. is much more sophisticated. The U.S. Deep state and intelligence apparatus is much more sophisticated than, our friends up north. So if Canada was able to pull this off, United States government, the Democrats, Republicans would do the same thing, by the way, would be able to pull it off.
I don't disagree. I'm going to say something that for those of you who follow my non-Bitcoin friendly conversation, you'll know that what I'm about to say is taking me a bit of a moment. Okay. But this is one of the very few applications of Bitcoin or not just Bitcoin, but crypto in general, right? where an opportunity exists to use it for the right reasons. If you listen to my interview a while back with the blockchain socialist, we talked explicitly about the concept. And in fact, ironically, Glenn Greenwald had the guy on too and talked to him. This right here is an opportunity for the left to use crypto in a way that's meant for organizing, for leftist causes, not to become the next libertarian millionaire, right? Not to be another Silicon Valley, doggy. The goal here would be to find a way to mitigate that, right? And that's what you see a lot of countries that the U.S. has deemed terrorist states. They're using it not so much because it's such a great medium. They're using it because it's a way of being able to basically launder their money through, in invisible distributed technology that allows them to be able to maintain their wealth. The problem is, and this is what the dum-dums in the libertarian strain have screwed up on, because it's so goddamn speculative, you can literally pump and dump that stuff and you could put all your money in there hoping that it'll save you through one of these major protests, you'll get it out. Problem is, because the next day after the big dogs dropped their money out, they pumped and then they dumped, and all your money is lost anyway. This is the only problem. So I don't know that this solves anything, but it's certainly a way of avoiding getting trapped by the government. But then you're left with another predator over here that's looking to make money off your sorrow too. So I don't know what to do with that, but that's the closest thing I've got to a retaliatory behavior that could protect people during such a thing. I do want to add this also, and that is that one of the most important things to note is that when you're looking at unions and you're looking at strikes, and more importantly, targeted strikes, I think we talked about this a few episodes ago. If you look, the primary place to really impact is a trucker-based strike or a transportation strike, something that will prevent the supply chains from flowing. And if you do it with trains, you do it with planes, you do it with automobiles, you do it with, truckers, whatever, this is a great strategy. Shipyards, you name it, anywhere where they're transporting goods and services, that is the targeted strike, not just a general strike, but a targeted direct action that really has an impact. And you're right, they felt it in Canada. We would feel it in the United States as well. So these are things where if we could find a way to leverage these things for good instead of for idiot stuff, we would be in great shape, except we have a government that is far more fascist, far more willing to crack down on populist demonstrations. And just imagine, you guys want a revolution. I want a revolution, but I don't think that the kind of revolution most people think they're going to have is the kind of revolution we could survive. So with that said, if you want a revolution, you already see the U.S. government is lining up the guns targeted straight at you. And they're saying, go ahead, do it. And right. So you gotta be organized. You can't just be running around with a cardboard sign screaming and yelling. You've got to really, really have your shit together. And these guys aren't playing around. They got billions to plan to stop you. They got trillions. They got unlimited funds to stop you. So how do you work within that? I don't know, but it's something to really, really put into the sausage maker and think about as we try to develop strategies on the left even. So again, these guys are in a way being they're like being the canary in the coal mine. They're ferreting out all the tactics.
I don't want to cut you off, but we have 15 minutes and I have breaking news. I have breaking news. So we got to get to this breaking news and another topic. Colin, real quick, let's remind people, because we got 250 people watching. In about 15 minutes, we are premiering on Callin, Callin, with Brianna Joy Gray as my guest. Wow. Do I look terrible in that photo, but that's okay. 5:45 Eastern will be our first episode on Callin, which is an app. Go download Callin. Colin, what is it called? Callin app?
Yep, it's called Callin. You can see in the top right there how to spell it. And also that's the 3 lines to the left there. That's the logo on the app in case you get confused with anything else that pops up. Yes. But yeah, just download it and search at Status Coup. You can see on the left side of that graphic there, at Status Coup. Yes. And you can pretty much search anything Status Coup, Jordan Sheridan, and we'll probably pop up in some fashion.
So we could take calls. I'm 60% sure I know how it works and how to use it. So we'll find out in 15 minutes. Steve, and keep smashing the like button, by the way, and I will read your super chats. Breaking news, Amazon workers in Staten Island who have won the right to hold an election. That election for a union will be in a month from now, starts on March 25th. I will definitely be covering that on the ground. 3 Amazon union organizers were arrested today in Staten Island. The workers organizing were delivering lunch to Amazon warehouse associates during their break. This is from Vice. The New York City Police Department arrested 2 Amazon warehouse worker organizers and Christian Smalls. Look at that. The leader of an ongoing unionization campaign outside Amazon's largest New York City warehouse. Motherboard obtained footage of those 3 arrests, during which the police handcuffed the 3 organizers who were wearing red bright shirts emblazoned with Amazon Labor Union, the name of the union that workers at the JFK 8 warehouse in Staten Island are trying to organize under. In the video, the employees can be heard demanding answers from the police about why they're being arrested from their colleagues. Colin, can we show the video?
Outside. We'll check to see what's going on. Yeah.
They're hurting my wrist once again. ALU organizers arrested for bullshit. They're not protecting anybody.
I want a meeting with Peace on Soul right now.
Y'all gonna get mad. Come on, y'all gonna get mad.
I want a meeting with your sergeant. Let me get to the precinct.
Why are you arresting them?
Oh yeah, look, throw me against.
Why are you arresting them?
Throw me against the car. Trespassing.
We're workers here. Why are you arresting us?
Amazon workers getting arrested.
Amazon doesn't care about their employees. What is the reason for the arrest?
That's not your car.
All right, but he just told me I could go in it.
This is my car.
That's what they wanted, right? Arresting your employees. You guys come to protect property and not people.
Y'all are wrong for this. Jason works here. ALU organizers. Brett works here.
Do you know that's
Brett works here. Y'all need to be
Inspector, do you know that's
He has a disability. Y'all better be careful how y'all handle him.
Inspector, I'm gonna report. I'm gonna do
Jason is a worker. Jason is allowed to be here.
Let me speak to him.
He has a disability. Careful.
Inspector Daniel, I'm gonna
Jason, show them your badge. He's a worker. Where are you taking him?
We have this all on body cam.
Brett
So you can
works
film what you
here.
want.
Yeah, why are you taking him? For what?
Trespassing.
He has a badge.
He works here.
He was stopping us from arresting someone in
No,
trespassing.
you guys were arresting him yet. You guys were arresting him yet. It's on camera, Karen. They were arresting Chris yet. They ganged up on Chris.
It's on body camera. It's on body
Jason,
camera.
And then they went to.
They stopped
And then they
us.
went to Chris. And then they went to
Man.
Chris. My eyes work, sir.
It's on
My
body
eyes
camera.
work.
And you
Y'all,
got
you
in the
and
way
Amazon
too.
can work together.
All right.
Now you have to stop the way. You got
What?
So, Jesus Christ. First of all, I know one of the people that was arrested. His name's Jason. I've interviewed him several times. He's an Amazon worker who's been very active with the workers that are trying to unionize. When that officer says he's trespassing, he works at Amazon, and they were handing out food, which is part of their union campaign. They use donations they get from the people to buy food and distribute it to workers, because a lot of these workers don't make a lot, and getting food at work for free saves them money. So I trust Vice. I trust their reporting, and the video speaks for itself. And by the way, this is breaking, so we don't have it. I interviewed a worker that was arrested 2 months ago while he was handing out food. This is blatantly illegal union busting. You are not allowed to intimidate, much less arrest workers while they are doing protected union activity. Your thoughts?
I'm infuriated. I'm sitting here shaking. You know, these are not rich people here, man. These are people that are subsisting at best. And you know, I mean, it's just amazing how fucked up our country is. Every time I look at it, I just get it just that much more ready to fight, man. I'm all I can say is that right there, if you're not willing to go down and suffer some for this, these strikes, these protests, the stuff isn't going to work. You've got to be willing to pay a price. And I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them. But I got to tell you, they're not going to do this the right way. The government is going to crack down. They are going to do what it was always built to do. The Constitution that we have was built to do, and that is protect private property, protect capital, protect the big man, and fuck us all. And so when you see something like that, it's no question why you see the police sitting there involved in doing this, not just Amazon security. Those are police, man. That we are talking about the state cracking down.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm reading more of the article. Again, this is breaking, so I didn't read the whole article. This is what was going on here. Colin, if you could read this part. According to two workers who witnessed the arrest, Amazon representatives came outside and told workers they were calling the police because Christian Smalls, a former Amazon warehouse employee and the leader of the union drive, was trespassing while helping the union deliver lunch to workers during their break. Let me repeat. Wow. Christian Smalls, who literally the Attorney General of New York sued Amazon in part because they illegally retaliated and fired Christian Smalls. Christian Smalls, who's no longer working there, but is leading this union effort, he went with current workers who are organizing to hand out free food to workers during their lunch break. And they used that as an excuse to arrest Smalls and other workers. Quote, "We were just giving out free grilled chicken and pasta to all the workers in the break room," said Derek Palmer, an Amazon labor union organizer and employee who witnessed the arrest. Quote, "The arrest came right after they were done. The general manager came out and said they were calling the cops." So literally, they called the cop. Amazon called the cops because the union organizers were distributing free food. Go on.
Well, they got the trespassing law on their side, don't they? Isn't that convenient? I mean, it's ridiculous. Just to realize, take a step back and realize how antagonistic and how militantly against labor Amazon is. Just think about that. It's mind-blowing to me. And they're not the only ones, right? This is business as usual and the United Corporations of America. This is universal. They've captured the government, and there they are. I'm blown away. I was in between there. I was messaging someone who was working with Christian in New York at one of the local clubs and said, "Oh my God, did you know your guy Christian just got arrested?" So she's in here watching now. She was like, "No, I didn't. I just saw him 2 nights ago. What the hell?" Amazing. Just terrifying, man. I'm pissed. I'm infuriated. I mean, but again, they'll use whatever loophole they can to eliminate any power labor has. And there
But by the way, this is what I said a couple weeks ago. I interviewed Christian Smalls and I asked him, well, they've already done some really horrible union busting, signs all over Amazon's warehouse, union busting signs, daily mandatory union busting sessions, including for the overnight shift. I got sent video of a union busting session that was going on at 4:30 in the morning for the overnight shift. The workers who were organizing, their tent mysteriously fell down several days in a row when no workers were there. The list goes on. But I said to Christian, do you expect it to get worse? Because I do. Now that you guys have won the right to hold an election. And here you go. It certainly is getting worse. Arresting. Okay, technically, all right, he's not a worker, so you could say he was trespassing, but you're going to then you're going to arrest other Amazon workers who speak up for their brother.
Yep.
It's just insane. And they're arresting him after the Attorney General of New York has already sued Amazon because you illegally fired him. It's just insane. And by the way, I tweeted last night, like they did in Bessemer, Alabama, this Amazon JFK 8 Staten Island, it's called JFK 8 Staten Island. It's a massive warehouse the size of 15 football fields. I've reported there at the warehouse like 6 or 7 times. Now they created a custom union busting website that I'm told by sources they are texting and emailing workers, go to the website for the facts. And it's just blatant union busting. Your final thoughts on this? Because to me, this looks similar to some of the stuff we saw. I don't want to be too dramatic, but violence with the Flint sit-down strikes, decades ago, and what we saw with the Pinkertons strike breaking in the early 20th century. It has tinges of that.
Well, just like they say that we will not see equality among the races until white people are willing to lose something in defense of things. You're not going to see strength in this until regular people outside go and join them and support them and actually build those numbers up to the point where they realize we're serious. And it showed that society is on the workers' side. Show that society as a whole wants to see these people made whole and see everyone made whole until we're willing to do that. And I know not everybody can run out there and be Jordan Chariton. That's why we're so grateful we got you. But for those of us who are on the back end, organizing, helping them, whatever, I'm telling you right now, they need numbers. They need people beyond just their union to support them, to show, hey, we're serious and we stand with them. It's when that happens that you're going to see real change. They just don't have enough numbers right now. It's up to us as real lefties and people that are for the 99% to get their asses out there and show solidarity. And fist in the air, Christian, I hope you're doing okay. And the rest of the gang, I hope you're doing okay. And
I got news.
That's it,
I got news for you real quick. As a strategic decision by Amazon, because from the sources I have, right now, it could go either way. It's kind of 50-50 if they're going to win that election. If you want to turn more workers on the side of unionizing, if you want to take action that's going to convince workers that might have been on the fence or might have been intimidated about voting yes on the union, start making arrests of fellow workers for the crime of handing out free food. So I think Amazon, they're a sophisticated company with God knows how much money they have for PR, marketing, lies, spin. But that's not a smart decision, what they did today. That's a really stupid decision. And I think it's going to turn more workers on the side of voting yes for a union.
Well, let's go back to the very beginning of the truckers here, and let's just make the point here.
Real quick, because I got to go soon. Yep.
That right there, that same Gestapo tactic is what makes people sympathetic to even those truckers. So we got to realize that this works both ways, and that if we stand up for the right things, that we can, in fact, bring about change. And what they're doing by these tactics are going to bring about change. It may not be the change we want, but change is coming, I believe.
Absolutely. Sorry we didn't get to the Russia-Ukraine topic, but I have to move over to call-in now. Maybe we'll do it another day this week because it's, according to CNN, we've heard the word imminent now for 3-4 weeks. Technically, there has been, Putin has sent peacekeeping troops, but we keep being told on the hour that a full-scale invasion is coming. So we'll have to see. But we didn't get to that topic today. I'm sorry, but I thought we had to get to this breaking Amazon news. As a reminder to the 250 people watching right now, we are moving over to Call-In, which is a live social app, social podcasting app. So we could take callers live through this app. I'm going to have Brianna Joy Gray joining me now. We're going to talk, is the left wrong to abandon electoral politics? You might be interested by this conversation. Steve, I'll have to have you on Call-In in the next episodes I do, if I can figure out how to use it.
Tell Brianna I said hello and I'd love to talk to her.
Yes. And by the way, if I didn't read super chats today, Colin, please save the super chats and I will read them tomorrow. So thank you for the super chats, but I don't want to keep Brianna waiting. So I'm moving over to call in now. Thank you for the super chats. And we will, let me read a couple now. Hopefully she won't be mad at me. Colin, Bren, $1.99. Thank you, Bren. Will, $5. Thank you. Barton King, $10. Thank you. D Nord, $20. Thank you. Mimi Boy, $50. Holy cow. Thank you, Mimi. Go over, download Call-In on iPhone, Android, and follow Status Coup. We're going live on Call-In next. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.